In this video, you're gonna see how this local delicacy has consumers in China going crazy over it, and how you, as a Singaporean investor, can leverage this trend to make it rain money. History has shown that betting on the needs of Chinese consumers can be a clear shot at earning big returns. See, General Motors made that bet in the 1990s when they saw the Chinese consumers' need for prestige and luxury cars and gave them just that. The Buick. These cars sold like hotcakes, and today, GM does a cool $45 billion in sales in the Chinese market every single year. And remember the Chinese milk powder scandal in 2008? Well, after news broke, Bellamy's Organic saw that scared Chinese parents needed safe milk powder, so they started marketing their Australian brand in China. The result? Their revenue grew 9 times in just 5 years. Both companies are making fortunes today because they saw needs in the Chinese market early on and acted quickly on it. And it might be a little late for us to exploit these trends now, but luckily, history tends to repeat itself and a new trend is just starting to emerge. Yes, it's this sensitive fruit. The Malaysian durian industry might just be your big play at the Chinese market. Now, if you're like me, you may find it a little hard to believe that this spiky fruit could have so much investment potential. But you will be shocked at the amount of evidence that shows that a grand opportunity is right at our doorstep. And it all comes down to 4 fundamental factors and 1 big breakthrough. So let's talk about the first fundamental: exploding demand. Do a Google search on durian industry and you'll see many reports of China's insatiable appetite for durians. China's durian imports climbed 7 times in the last decade, and today it does a whopping $1.1 billion per year. So let's put that in perspective. In the time since you pressed play on this video, fans in China have already bought over 350 kilograms of durian. Malaysian plantations have been like a magnet, attracting Chinese travelers from across the world to taste its rare and exotic flavor. Back home, durian products are the most searched terms on Alibaba.com, and when they launched the sale of 80,000 durians recently, guess how many days it took to sell all of it? Just 60 seconds. But does all of this frenzied consumption make sense? Well, consider this in context. China is moving towards a consumer-led economy. Half of the Chinese populace has moved into the middle class, where they're consuming more and more and more. So yes, the massive demand is no surprise. The real question is, what does this all mean for Malaysia? Which leads us to untapped potential. This may shock you, but for years, Malaysia has sat on the side while watching the Chinese go crazy over durian. Malaysia made up less than 1% of China's total durian imports, while Thailand easily took up all of the rest. The thing is, many consider Malaysian durian varieties like Musang King to have superior taste. So why is it that Malaysia has simply not been in the game? Well, here's the thing. There's a regulation in China that prohibits the import of whole Malaysian durians and only allows for it in its frozen pulp form. China has hungered for Malaysia's whole durians, and Malaysia has waited anxiously to feel the full force of that hunger. But the full potential of this perfect marriage, that has been locked down behind a wall of red tape. Thankfully, something has just come along that will turn all of this on its head. But first, let's talk about the next fundamental: limited supply. Now remember earlier I called the durian a sensitive fruit? That's because the durian is not like any other plant. It is ultra tropical, so it only grows in a thin strip near the equator in places like Malaysia. Here, rainfall and temperature are just right. And you're probably thinking, so what? Well, it means that the durian growing real estate and durian supply is limited. Now follow this logic here. As more investors recognize the Chinese opportunity, durian plantations will seem like a gold mine, and soon many investors will be fighting over fruit-bearing trees, causing their values to skyrocket. In this scenario, wouldn't you like to be the forward-looking owner of these assets just waiting for the money to fall into your lap? If you said yes, then you must move quickly, because this has already begun. Investors have rushed in, causing plantation prices to double. Thankfully, there is a way for you to acquire durian trees quickly and cheaply, but we'll talk about this later on in the video. For now, let's move on to the next fundamental: strong backing. The fundamentals above make for an attractive market, but you can really kick market penetration into hyperdrive by promoting durians at overseas events and festivals and negotiating with Chinese authorities to lift those pesky import regulations. The problem is, Malaysia's farms are currently too small and scattered to push a cohesive agenda. But what if an entity with huge resources and political power wanted to represent you? What if it was their job to make sure that you succeeded? Wouldn't you be more confident of your farm's success? Thankfully, that's exactly what's happening. Yes, the Malaysian government has pushed for durian exports to become a major contributor to the economy. They've referred to durian as the new gold, a champion product, and a prized asset. They've poured massive resources into running durian promotions in China and meeting with Chinese bureaucrats to create a market for durians. Their vision is to build what they're calling the durian economy. They're going to continue supporting the durian industry, and thankfully their efforts haven't been in vain because they've just made the big breakthrough. Here is where it all comes together. Because recently, on August 20th, 2018, Malaysia signed an export protocol with China and was finally successful in gaining market access for its durians. Thanks to the government's continued efforts, Malaysia's full durian potential has finally been unlocked. A massive addressable market is now open to durian growers, and this makes durian producing assets more valuable than ever before. That's why respected people and reputable Singaporean companies are all investing in durian, like Michael Sin. He is the derivatives head of SGX. Now here's a man that is well versed in financial products, who understands the markets, and he's invested millions into a farm in Johor. A Singapore-listed company, Cereal Systems, has recently expanded into durian as well. And we should remember that public-listed companies can't just invest in any old thing. They have to go through a rigorous due diligence process, gain approval from their board of directors, and so on. So why would they go through all of that effort to invest in durian? It's clear that the smart money sees the durian industry heading for the skies. The question is, how do you join them before this rocket takes off? Well, unfortunately, you don't have many options. The usual investment vehicles like commodity futures, REITs, and pure play public companies simply don't exist for durian. The best way is still to invest in your very own farm. But even then, you still have to deal with three major challenges. The first challenge is huge upfront costs. The cost for just a few acres of land is already in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And even after that, you've got to fork out even more on building infrastructure like proper roads, workers' accommodation, irrigation systems, Vehicles, equipment, fertilizer, pesticides. You have to cover the operating costs in the first few years before your trees mature. And before you know it, you are tangled in millions of dollars in costs. So you need to ask yourself, are you willing to risk that much capital just to begin? Challenge number 2 is it's a lot of work to manage. Now ask yourself, do you have the technical expertise to choose the land and build the infrastructure, hire and manage staff, or create and execute the SOPs for managing disease, harvesting, and so on? And would you want to spend your days and nights worrying about pest control, every breakdown in maintenance, theft, staffing issues, market prices, building relationships and negotiating with customers and suppliers? I mean, isn't it like being on a never-ending treadmill? And can you really commit to such an intense level of involvement? Challenge number 3 is small fries get eaten alive. So you've just spent a fortune and poured your blood, sweat, and tears into your farm, but you're not out of the woods yet. Chances are that you only own just a few acres, which is a relatively small operation. And here's why that's bad. You're just one out of many similar farms. You're at the mercy of sharks like customers. They will kill you on prices because if you don't agree to their prices, well, they'll just hop over to your competitor. On top of that, there are other sharks as well, like bigger plantations. They have the economies of scale and resources to outmaneuver you. These farms can fill big orders and control more of the supply, so they have leverage over the customer and can set prices, whereas you can't. Wouldn't it be great to be a big plantation then? But you need to ask yourself, do you really have the connections or the capital or the expertise to become one? So here's the bottom line. Like the car and milk powder markets before it, China's durian market promises immense wealth. But sadly, the 3 major roadblocks we just discussed make it almost impossible for most investors to get a slice of the action. But wait, is there really no other way? What if I could show you a solution where you could own your own durian trees and solve all the 3 challenges almost as easily as flicking a switch? And what I mean is low upfront investment, you reap the rewards from all your trees without doing any of the work, and you enjoy all the same advantages as owning a big plantation. Now that's obviously too much to show you in this video, so here's what I'm offering you today. A 30-minute one-on-one meeting with me where you'll discover a unique way for you to enjoy all of the durian upside with none of the challenges, how your investment could grow more than 7 times in value in just 5 years, and I will provide well-researched, compelling evidence to back up all of my claims, and at the end, I will give you a chance to acquire your very own durian trees. Now here's my number, or you could just use one of the forms below. Give me a call and I'll be happy to arrange that meeting. Now I know that there's been talk about Instagram models promoting sketchy durian investments, but that's not what I'm doing here. Before the video ends, let me introduce myself. My name is Aiden Kang and I am a former financial analyst. In my work, I've researched industry trends, conducted due diligence, valued companies and financial instruments. I've spent over 100 hours researching this specific opportunity for you. So please don't reinvent the wheel. Take this short meeting with me to see the full picture that took me weeks to make sense of. Here's my number again, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Now it's up to you. Would you be like GM and Bellamy's Organic to take the plunge? Because one day your returns might be shooting to the moon, and you'll look back and be proud that you made the right decision.